There are many who do these activities to get the thrill, get the excitement, get the dopamine rush. And typically, if you do struggle with compulsive sexual behavior or sex addiction, you are also, without knowing it, you are addicted to the rush of adrenaline and the rush of dopamine in the brain. You actually begin to alter your dopamine system after years and years and years of actively involved in compulsive sexual behavior. Hey guys, I'm life coach Rob Lopicola, specialized in behavioral health and sex addiction recovery. And if you are battling with compulsive sexual behavior, or you believe you have a sex addiction, your life is unmanageable because of your sexually compulsive behaviors, whether it's online dating apps or excessive pornography, or perhaps strip clubs or sex clubs, or any mix of these, public sex, meeting men or women in public parks or bathrooms, all of these behaviors are indicative that your sexual life is out of control and unmanageable. And if it's negatively impacting your focus, your self-esteem, confidence, your career and job, your income, your relationships, these areas that are getting disrupted or destroyed because of those behaviors may indicate that on some level you may have an addiction or certainly out of control compulsive sexual behaviors. Hey guys, I want you to keep in mind that if you're struggling with sex addiction and you just don't know what to do, you don't know where to go, I want you to watch my free 30-minute strategy session to help you begin healing from your sex addiction. Go to my website, sexaddictionrelief.com, and sign up and watch the free 30-minute strategy session. It will begin to help you go down the road of healing. And most sex addicts struggle with seeking help for their addiction. There's a lot of shame around it, a lot of humiliation, a lot of self-judgment, a lot of self-deprecation comes with this addiction. And there's really not a lot of outlets to get help for sex addiction. And who do you tell? Who do you trust to discuss an addiction that many may judge, may look at you as perverted or nasty, or may look down on you as disgusting? These are the judgments you have for yourself, perhaps, and you certainly don't want to tell anybody else, for anyone else to give you those judgments as well. Sex addiction or compulsive sexual behavior are very powerful. It's one of the most powerful behavioral addictions known to man. Much how methamphetamine is one of the most powerful substances, especially if you're an addict, known to man. And if you're dual addicted to methamphetamine and sex, you have the most powerful behavioral addiction and substance addiction known. And it's exceedingly difficult to break, but you can. But today I want to focus on sex addiction. And if you are struggling with sex addiction, I'm going to tell you right now the cycle that you have been dealing with for perhaps many, many years, and perhaps for some of you, decades. There is a cycle in sex addiction. It starts with preoccupation. The preoccupation phase, if you will, of this cycle is about thinking about your acting out sexual behavior. Whether it's thinking about going on a dating app, or thinking about going to a sex club, or thinking about the strip club Friday night when you get paid. If you're thinking about those things, that's called preoccupation. You're sort of preoccupied by it. Now, once you really start thinking about it more deeply, meditating on it, if you will, it becomes an obsession. You can't get it, at least seemingly, you can't get it out of your mind. You can't stop thinking about it. In fact, when you're in the obsession phase, you actually feel as though you're getting an adrenaline rush from it already. You're excited. You may have a heightened mood. You may have more energy. You may be a bit fidgety. You're getting that excitement. Your brain is releasing dopamine and adrenaline because of the fact that you know now that you're obsessed, you're going to act out in those behaviors of your choice. So then after that, once you put on the pornography or go on the dating app or go to the sex club, you get into the compulsion This phase is once you start, you're seemingly unable to stop. You just can't turn the pornography off. You don't want to leave the sex club. It's very difficult to leave the strip joint. Whatever it is that your behavior that you're addicted to, it's very, very difficult and feeling as though nearly impossible to stop the behavior. Until you had enough, you're exhausted, you have to. Something must interrupt that compulsive phase, and then you get into despair. The fourth phase is when you feel desperate, you self-loathe, you hate yourself, you feel shame, guilt, regret, you beat yourself up, you don't feel good enough, you feel inferior, your self-confidence and self-esteem is beaten to the pulp, and you don't feel good enough. You feel as though if anyone knew the real you, they wouldn't like you, wouldn't love you, and certainly would think less of you. But shortly after that, you start thinking about it again. You start thinking about going back online on the dating app. You think about watching the porn. You're thinking about the porn you watched and you want to watch it again. Or you're thinking about going to the sex club or hooking up with someone you hooked up with 3 days ago that you promised you would never hook up with that person again. And here you are texting or sexting that person again. There are a lot of behaviors that compulsive sex addicts deal with, which is sexting, cybersex, pornography, excessive masturbation, fantasy. Objectifying people can be part of your addiction. Objectifying men or women when you see them on the road, you objectify, then you obsess. A lot of people will see someone on the road that triggers them in a sexually compulsive way of thinking. They obsess on that person, and then when they go home later, they try to find porn that matches a look of the person that you've been obsessed with all day in your fantasy. Fantasy can definitely be a form of sex addiction as well. Or when you get in a relationship or you're in one, and during your sexual activity with your partner, you obsessively think about a former partner who you're no longer with because sex was a little more risque or a little bit more exciting. So then you think about that with your current partner. That's a form of sex addiction, perhaps. If it's making your life unmanageable, if it seems hopeless that you have no control, that's a form of sex addiction. There are many sex addicts that go to public parks, that go to rest stops, that go to bathrooms, public restrooms. There are many who do these activities to get the thrill, get the excitement, get the dopamine rush. And typically, if you do struggle with compulsive sexual behavior or sex addiction, you are also, without knowing it, you are addicted to the rush of adrenaline and the rush of dopamine in the brain. You actually begin to alter your dopamine system after years and years and years of actively involved in compulsive sexual behavior, which generally continues to progress. If you are struggling with sex addiction or compulsive sexual behavior, it is likely it is progressing. It's stronger now, it's more powerful now, or you're delving into places you may not have ever delved into or dreamed you never would years ago. Years ago, it was much more simple. Your sex addiction was at its baby stage. But as it progresses, you get into pornography you never thought you'd watch, or you promised you never would go there. You get into sexual situations that you never thought you would get into or promised yourself you never would. You get into very risky situations, perhaps illegal sexual situations, and you start to lose the reality of the consequences. Addictive behavior is so powerful, you are in a form of denial at what you're really doing, of the consequences and how it is taking over your life. Also, if you need help immediately, if you need help right now, I want you to reach out to me. You can call me at 954-861-0740 right now. Leave a voicemail if I'm unavailable, and I will get back to you. And ultimately, for many, many sex addicts, or many men who have this sex addiction, you have negotiated with your addiction repeatedly, maybe hundreds of times. I'll only do it on weekends. I'll only do it on Friday night. I'll only do it once a month. I'll only go on a dating app on Saturdays. Whatever it is, you've negotiated so many times, and to no avail. You're not being able to control it. You're back to the compulsivity of it. You have also repeatedly promised yourself you wouldn't act out in certain ways or you wouldn't do certain things, and yet you break those promises over and over. You've tried to stop these behaviors repeatedly, dozens, maybe hundreds of times, to no avail. You go right back to those behaviors. It could be hours, could be days, could be weeks, could be months, but you go back to those behaviors once again, and you feel hopeless. Get to the point where you feel empty, hopeless, you don't like yourself, you're filled with shame, and then you wear masks everywhere you go because you certainly don't want anyone to know the real you. It disrupts your potential in life, it destroys relationships, it certainly destroys your self-esteem and your confidence. So if you're looking for a way out, you're looking for help, you may have been on Google, you may have been on YouTube, and you're searching for the answer, the solution, and you're reading a lot of articles on it, and you probably have a lot of knowledge by now. And yet, to no avail, you simply seem to be unable to stop and control the behaviors. Boy, have I been there. I know exactly what you're feeling. My coach told me about 15 years ago, I was one of the worst cases of sex addiction he's ever witnessed. I was at the bottom of the barrel of my sex addiction, and also I was dual addicted to methamphetamine and alcohol as well. But sex addiction is my core addiction, and it's something I was addicted to all the way back into my teen years when it started with pornography and phone sex back in the day, back in the 80s. So I've had decades of compulsive sexual behavior that destroyed my career, destroyed my life, hurt my health, and ultimately took away my freedom. The behaviors around addiction clogged my brain, fogged my brain, and I wasn't able to see clearly anymore. And I started to get involved in illegal activity and did some time for that. And at that point, when I finally was empty and lost everything, I was ready to change. And I had a coach that taught me everything that I needed to change and transform my entire mindset, my entire life, my belief system, and my perception of myself, my life, my addiction. And that's what you need. You need a complete recreation of your mind, a total redesign of your mindset, an entirely new way of looking at yourself, looking at the addiction. You need to recreate your life. You need a total transformation, and I can provide that for you. I know what it's like. I've been there. In my life today, I couldn't imagine ever in my history that I would be where I'm at today, a content, peaceful, sober, sound of mind, spiritually grounded man. And I do practice what I preach. All my friends, my circle, my family, everyone around me, they all see that I do practice what I preach. So I don't want to convince you of that. I want you to get to know me because I can help you change and transform and free yourself from this addiction. And at this point, you'll likely feel hopeless and don't see a way out. And there is a way out. And what I want you to do is I want you to start with my 30-minute 10-step strategy session. You can go to my website, sexaddictionrelief.com, and I want you to watch my free 30-minute 10-step strategy session. I go over the initial 10 steps, if you will, to begin to understand your addiction and to begin breaking the cycle of your sex addiction. Following that 30-minute strategy session, you could set up a complimentary call with me. We'll talk for 45 minutes about where you're at now, where we can get you, and how to go about that. Offer you one or two strategies or one or two different perceptions you could learn and develop to take a look at yourself and your addiction. Also, on my YouTube channel, I have over 150 videos about self-esteem, confidence building, changing your mindset, and overcoming this horrible addiction that is very, very powerful. You are an individual who happens to have sex addiction or compulsive sexual behavior. It doesn't define you. It doesn't make you an immoral person. You have morals and values. You're just not living up to them because this addiction takes them away from you, but you have them. And I want to help you live life at the level of your morals and your values. Let me help you. And once we meet and discuss where you're at now and where you can be with the right strategies, your life will be exactly what you want it to be. A life of manageability, a life of self-control and self-discipline, and more importantly, a life where there is no fight and no battle with urges, cravings, or this addiction. I can help free you of that. I'm so grateful you were here today, and if any of this resonated with you, you like what this channel is about, please subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and I do post a video weekly. Hit the bell. It'll tell you every time I post a new video for you. I'm so grateful you were here, and I look forward again to seeing you next week. You take care and be well.